Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Elephants. I'm your host, Caden Farley, and today I'm interviewing my brother, Caden Farley. We're keeping it in the family this season, I guess. So to be transparent, the thought of interviewing my brother has never really crossed my mind before, but recently I've been more active in the dating scene, and Caden has actually unknowingly provided me with a decent amount of knowledge and perspective when it comes to the inner workings of the minds of 20-something-year-old males. I was in a relationship for about 7 years, so when I became single, I didn't really have any idea what I was walking into in terms of the dating world. And it's been pretty disappointing, needless to say. I do feel like we're living in a pandemic of non-commitment, lust, situationships, all that fun stuff. And Caden's only a year younger than me, so we're in the same age range, kind of experiencing the same things, just on, opposite ends of the spectrum and different genders and things like that. And I asked him to talk with me today because for the better part of his life, I would say, he might disagree, he's been pretty non-committal and casual with women, which I feel like is a trend right now. He's been stereotyped by certain people as being a player, but he's also had long-term serious relationships, so he's kind of been on both ends of that spectrum. So I thought it might be valuable for everyone that doesn't have a brother to hear his perspective on dating the way that it has been valuable for me. He's always been honest with me about whether or not he thinks a guy is being genuine with me, likes me for me, is just trying to hook up with me, takes me serious, etc., because he's been that person to other girls. Obviously, Caden's one person, and he's not representative of the entire population of 20-something-year-old males, but we can all attest that we recognize certain behaviors and patterns within our own gender, so I do still think there is value in hearing one experience. So Caden is so weird. Can you just briefly introduce yourself and then start by just sharing a little bit about your dating history and your experience with women up until this point?
Yeah, so I'm Caden. I'm 24. I'm born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada. As far as my dating history goes, I got my first girlfriend at 17 to 22.
You were 17?
17, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I was in college. You were a senior. Okay, sorry, continue.
So it was, 5 years, a little bit on and off. And I guess we'll get more into that relationship later. But shortly after that, I went into another relationship, and it was 9-10 months long. And, yeah.
Okay. And then you were obviously with girls before your first relationship.
I was.
And in between relationships.
Yes.
And then after your last relationship. So there's been like casual stuff in there too.
There has.
How healthy do you feel like your two relationships were? Like, you don't have to, give a ton of details just out of respect for
of course,
whoever was involved, but
my first relationship, I feel like it was pretty good. I mean, for both of us entering the dating scene for the first time with each other, I'd say it went pretty well. Towards the end, it might have not, been the greatest, but I think when you get back together with somebody, after a certain amount of times, there's maybe like emotional dependency there, and that might be the reason that you guys are sticking around. So maybe for the wrong reasons, but towards the end, it wasn't the best. And second relationship, that one, I think we just entered that relationship with a little bit too much baggage. We both left our exes, had a couple months in between being single and not, and I think that might have been the problem there. We didn't really take any time to heal, so we both had some baggage that we brought with our entering that relationship.
So for both of those relationships, it kind of, the second one, it obviously sounds like you just fell into it. It was kind of unexpected, maybe as a coping mechanism from leaving the relationship before. But I guess for both, how did you end up in those relationships? In other words, were you planning on being in a relationship? Were you looking for commitment? Or Was it supposed to be something casual and you ended up catching feelings for them, or what happened there?
Yeah, so the first relationship, I think that we just hung out enough times to where it kind of happened. So I guess to answer your question, I wasn't looking for it. And the second one, I guess it was just the same thing. I think when you hang out with somebody enough times and you do little things like, going out to eat and whatnot, I think that's kind of how it happens. Or at least that's how I see it. So they just kind of happened. I wasn't really going out looking for it.
Do you feel like, so when you look at both relationships, like in retrospect now, knowing what you know now, having the experiences that you've had, do you feel like they were healthy? Like, do you feel like they were good, mostly positive, or do you feel like it kind of changed your perspective on relationships in a negative way?
Yeah, I'd say the last relationship definitely changed my perspective in a negative way. I told myself I was going to take some time off from the dating scene and just be about myself. So that's kind of what I've been doing.
Do you feel like obviously people are different. Not everyone is like your last ex or the ex before. So do you feel like are you scared to enter another relationship because you think it's going to be like that? Or do you just feel like, after all the energy that I put into that, I don't want to date anybody anymore?
Yeah, there's only so much I want to say about detail wise, but I guess what I can say is it is hard for me to picture a relationship where it's not what it was as far as,
being kind of toxic.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So, and I know it's not every relationship's going to be like that, and everyone's always telling me, like, you just got to find the right person, but, I'm the one that would be going through it and experiencing it, so it's kind of, I don't know.
So when you're, like, running the gambit of women, right, when you're having your experience as a 20-something-year-old male, what makes you decide that, because obviously when you're experiencing different people, sometimes you see multiple people, like you see people multiple times, even if it is casual. So what makes you decide you want to be with a girl long term versus someone that is just going to be casual? Does it have more to do with the girl that you're seeing and like you see things in her that you really like, or does it have more to do with your headspace at the time? Or like, how do you differentiate, oh, this is someone that I'm going to hook up with a bunch of times because I like hooking up with them. This is someone that I could see a future with, or this is someone that is like just, I'm going to call her like once a month.
Yeah. Lately, I'd say I've gone into every, situation with a girl with the mindset of it's not going to be anything. Like, I don't even give it the chance. My mind's made up.
No matter how the girl is.
Yeah, no matter what. So I guess I'm not, it sounds toxic and messed up, but I'm just not even thinking about that side of things. It's just, most of the time I'll try and be transparent,
Yeah, I was going to say, do you tell all of them that, or does it not, does it come up in conversation, or does it only come up when you feel like they're starting to like you and you have to break the
news? I could probably be a little bit more transparent, but, yeah, and I feel like, maybe this isn't true, but I feel like a lot of people get the vibe too. Maybe that's a part of my problem. I'm assuming things, thinking they're.
So, but you said you ended up in both of your relationships just because you were spending a lot of time with them. So what made you decide to be in a relationship with those girls instead of any other girl that you've been with?
I think I just, again, like after the first relationship I was in, I still had a little bit of, I think I saw the dating scene a little bit differently at the time. So the first one, my first relationship, I had nothing to compare it to. So I saw it as like rainbows and butterflies. I was all excited about it. Left that relationship, went into another one, and it kind of just took a toll on me. So
I know how you got into them. but or like why you don't pursue a relationship now, but I'm saying what made you decide, okay, I'm going to be exclusive with this person. I want a relationship with this person after spending a lot of time with them.
I guess what I was trying to get at is I didn't have the mindset that I do now. Like I never had
You weren't avoiding it at
yeah,
that
I wasn't
time.
avoiding it. Like I didn't plan on it happening, but I also wasn't like, oh, this is going to be the worst thing in the world.
So you were open to it.
Yeah.
But so okay, you were more open to it at that time, but again, you were I'm assuming before you were like exclusive in a relationship with both of those people, you were seeing other people too, or you had other options.
Yeah.
So in your mind as someone that like I see personally just from knowing you as pretty non-committal, like not looking for a relationship, I mean I think everyone enjoys a relationship, but like the way that I see you is that you're just not like that's not a goal of yours. That's never been something that's super important or a priority. So when you have other options, like for a relationship and other girls that you've hooked up with, what drew you to your first relationship and what drew you to your second relationship? Are you saying that it wasn't them, it wasn't the girls, it was just your headspace at the time? Or what did you like about those girls that made you say, this is someone that I want to shut everyone else out for?
Yeah. Well, I mean, to the first relationship I was in, I was their first experience for everything. So I think I liked the idea of that, for one. There was a point where, my friends and her friends were also, like, seeing each other, so it just kind of made sense and worked out, which, when you have, like, your friends that you care about with you, they're seeing their friends, it just, I don't know, it just helps.
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay. So the idea kind of like of purity, like of
Yeah.
like knowing that she's a good girl.
Yeah.
Knowing because as much as like it's a controversial topic, but like the idea of body count, especially when you're younger, I feel like more so when you're younger, but I feel like that's a big thing for guys.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because it's a hypocritical situation for sure because there's so many men that are just ran through.
It's definitely
And-
hypocritical.
Yes. So, but I've noticed, like, just from not even just talking to you, but talking to other, like, guys your age, that this concept of a girl, like, only being reserved for you, like, it's something with pride and with ego, and I don't know. I guess
I mean, who wouldn't
can't.
want that, though, right? Like,
I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess even as a girl, like, when I think about me being intimate with someone, I wouldn't want the feeling of, like, walking into a room and not knowing if there's a bunch of girls in there that have
yeah.
been with the guy that I'm with. Like, that wouldn't feel good on my end either. But, like, I just feel like it is hypocritical because we don't sit there and press you guys about how many people you've been with.
I mean, you can't speak for everybody else.
I can't speak for everybody else,
That's
but
not true.
I've
had my fair share of, girls complain about, like if they're going to ask me and they really want to know, I'll tell them.
Tell them what?
Like,
How many? Or
yeah,
who? Or
yeah. I mean, I'm not going to say who because at that point, like, I'm exposing somebody else's business, so I try and keep those people out of it. But if they want to know who and then get upset with me, I don't really know what to tell you at that point,
Yeah. I feel like when it comes to who, it's more like as long as it's not someone in my circle, like it's not someone that I'm going to have to be friendly with.
Yeah.
Like that's when I feel like it's fair to let somebody know out of respect. I mean, I guess it depends on how casual or serious a relationship is, but like that's when I feel like it would be fair.
Yeah.
Like, is it someone that I'm going to go to work with? Is it someone that I'm friends with? Is it someone that I don't like?
Well,
like,
that's
those
an
things
interesting
matter.
one because I've played that game with somebody before where I'm like, all right, you want to ask me who, how many? I'm going to ask you who and how many. And it made me realize I'd rather not know.
Yeah.
Because then I'm going around, like, I'm going places or I'll see somebody or, like, I'll even find myself, like, checking up on the dude's Instagram. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But it's like, it makes you more miserable, in my opinion, knowing who. I'd rather not know.
Yeah.
Save myself the...
That's when ignorance is bliss.
Yes.
So, okay, first relationship, you knew that you were her first everything. Second relationship, what made you... Was that situation just because you were getting over your first relationship? Like, that's it?
I'll say this. I don't regret the relationship with this person. But yeah, I think that I was so used to having somebody for so long that I had that feeling of like almost loneliness.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it was a distraction. I'd be with that person and I wasn't thinking about the other one. So I definitely think that's an unhealthy way to go about it. But, you know, it's like everybody says, like, being on the outside looking in now, I can recognize that. But at the time, it's hard to admit those things for yourself, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like, so this is another thing. I've thought about this for a long time because, so Christy was the first person, actually, that put this idea in my head when I was like 15 or 16. I can't remember. It was when I was either broken up or getting ready to break up, or I don't remember, from my first relationship in high school. And I remember her telling me, like, you can't just go from one relationship to another. Like, you need to take time to process it. You need to take time to be on your own, to be okay being alone. And, like, that really stuck with me and was ingrained in my head. And I know she didn't mean it, like, maliciously or anything, but it almost became like this shameful thing that I imposed on myself, where it's like, okay, well, if I leave this relationship, I just have to be alone. Like, I can't turn to somebody else. Like, I'm just going to have to be closed off to everyone and really process this breakup or really process the loss of this person, which I do think is healthy. Like, I don't think that any repression of emotion is healthy. So I do think it's good to, like, let it come through and to be on your own and feel like the void and the emptiness. But I've also been in situations where, like, I just loved that person so much, and I either had so much history or so many feelings for that person that, like, I needed distraction, even if it was in the form of other people. Like, there was no way I was going to move on from it if my brain wasn't distracted and the gym wasn't enough. Like, going to therapy wasn't enough. Being on meds wasn't enough. Like, something wasn't enough unless it was somebody else. So it's kind of like, I don't know. I go back and forth about whether or not that's healthy, because you don't want to bring your baggage from an old relationship into a new one. But I also feel like, you know, like your last relationship, if you both had, like, this common goal of not thinking about this other person and it worked for you, like, if it wasn't as toxic as it was, then it would have been fine in a way.
Yeah.
You know? I
mean, yeah, that's true. But it was as toxic as it was.
I know.
So.
And I also saw this TikTok from, I don't know, TikTok's not really a great source, but they do have, you know, therapists and doctors and people that have accounts and make content. But it was this girl saying that she talked to her therapist. This was the first time I'd ever heard something like this. She said she was talking to her therapist, and her therapist gave her, like, this alternative perspective where it was like, you can't heal relationship problems by yourself. Like, you can do your inner work and do your part to try and heal yourself and let go of baggage. But when it comes to being in a relationship, because some of that manifests, you know, in a relationship, whether, you know, you have different attachment styles. You have people that have anxious attachment. You have people that are dismissive avoidance, which I think you're a dismissive avoidant, and we can talk about that later.
Here comes my diagnosis.
Yes, I'm doing a psychological evaluation. But there's no way to put into practice what you're learning without exercising that muscle with another person.
That makes sense.
Which is also interesting, you know?
There were some things that went wrong in my first relationship on my end that I brought to the table that weren't good, that I thought I wouldn't have going into the next relationship, and I did. So and now I feel like I might be past those negative things that I brought. Like, maybe I got rid of those bad habits, but I guess you really don't know unless you're in a relationship.
Right.
So that makes sense.
Yeah. So your first relationship, would you say you were attracted to the fact that she had like respect for herself and her body and
Yeah. I mean, we were young, but yeah.
yeah. How can you tell when a girl has respect for herself versus when she doesn't? Like, what are some things where you're like, that's a bop versus that's someone that, not to be derogatory because everyone's going through their own stuff and I'm not trying to like talk about women the way that men talk about women sometimes, but there are different types of women out there. Some have more respect than others. I feel like a big one is if she's willing to, I don't even know if I could say that. But like, I guess from your perception, if she's willing to sleep with you with very little effort.
Yeah. Which
or does that not change your perspective of her?
I mean,
or does it depend?
I mean, yeah, I can shape it for sure. Because let's say I ended up with that person, and I guess this is where insecurity could come in. But I'll like start asking myself, well, how many other people have you done this with? Like, how many people have you slept with on like the first link? And you're my person now. So, yeah, I think that has a little bit to do with it, which is hypocritical because if you want to sleep with me on the first link, I'm probably not going to tell you no.
Okay, exactly. Well, like that's where the hypocrisy comes in.
And I recognize that for sure.
Yeah.
I'm admitting it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, at least you have self-awareness. How many times a week would you see a girl that you actually like? I saw this, people were asking this question, like, to guys. Like, I know it's probably different depending on what kind of guy you are, what your schedule looks like. But if you actually like someone and enjoy their company, how many times are you asking to hang out with them in a week or in a month or whatever?
I mean, you guys are basically seeing each other at this point, or you're just asking if you have emotion, like if you like them?
Yeah, like maybe this is you in the stage of catching feelings for somebody. How can you tell, oh, I'm starting to catch feelings for them? How many times are you asking to see them?
Probably a couple times a week, 2 to 3 times. I mean,
3 times.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Like if you're doing something and you're thinking about the next time you want to hang out with them, that's like
interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like with girls, like...
yeah, what do you think the right number is? How many times you like a guy, he says he likes you, how many times should he be asking you to hang out a week?
At least 2. At least 2 for sure. Like, I feel like if I'm... And I guess it also depends on their schedule. It depends. Like, if they're super busy, I get not... Stop. I get not, like... seeing them super frequently, but I should still be hearing from you.
Yeah.
To me, I feel like I can tell when someone likes me if they're talking to me outside of hooking up. Like if I only hear from someone when they're trying to hit me up late at night, I know what it is,
Yeah.
But if it's something like they're asking me how my day was, or I this is after we've already been intimate together, because they could be doing that stuff beforehand just to try and be intimate with you. So this is like after I've already been intimate with someone. If they're putting in effort to see me outside or to talk to me outside of that, I feel like they like me. If they're asking me to do things, like to go, I guess you would say, on dates, or like to do things outside of just being intimate, I feel like that's a sign that they like you too. Because I feel like guys are not wasting time going on dates with people that they don't
I was just going to say that. Like, I'm not going to speak for everybody else, but for me at least, I think that, like, it's no big deal. Like, it's nothing if I bring, like, a girl around, like, my friends, like, especially if we're all drinking or we're in, like, a public setting. Like, that's nothing. Because at the end of the day, like, if I'm not feeling it, like, I have my friends there to lean back on. But if I do something with you one-on-one and I want to do something with you one-on-one, then I'm like, okay, yeah, I like this person.
Mm-hmm. What's the biggest sign? I mean, again, you can't speak for everybody, but at least for you, the biggest sign that a guy doesn't actually like a girl and is just using her. Or I guess maybe a few different signs that it's just not that serious to him.
I guess I'd have to put a little bit more thought into it, but you're asking?
Yeah, I'm asking you to tell me right now. Like when you don't really care for a girl. I'm trying to think here. So
I also I want to be careful with what I say too.
I don't think you should.
Okay.
I don't think you should be careful. I don't think it matters. And I think that you being honest it may not sound nice on the ears. It may offend people. It may whatever, but it's the truth. Like, it's the reality of the situation. You don't ever spare my feelings, ever. So you don't need to spare anybody else's feelings. Like, it helps people to be honest.
Yeah. So what was your question again?
So what are signs that a guy doesn't actually like a girl and is just using her for sex?
I mean, on my end, I don't lose sleep at night knowing she's probably out there with other guys. That's
Okay.
one for me.
That's a big one.
That's a big one. Because when I do like somebody, that'll keep me up at night, the thought of it.
Okay, so not asking her about who else she's seeing or what else she's doing.
Yeah, I mean, and
So
that
when you
conversation
like her-
always comes later. I have to know I like you to have that conversation. But yeah, that's probably my biggest one. I'm not checking up on them. I'm just, I'm not responding. It's they're just not on your mind. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So,
And I feel like girls are smart enough to be able to tell when they're not. So if she's the one that's always reaching out to you,
yes,
if you only hear from him,
those sneaky hours.
yeah,
Those
late at
nights.
night.
Sneaky link hours.
What about, I feel like you had to have dealt with girls that like you don't like them, they want something with you, you don't want something with them, and if they get upset with you about something, do you just not really care that much? Because you're like, I don't...
I mean, I'm still considerate, and I still feel bad if there's somebody out there that I feel like I might have done wrong. And lately I've been big into, wondering how the universe is going to punish me for it. You've kind of put that in my mind, so thanks for that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it does make me feel bad.
You do feel guilty when you haven't treated girls the best?
Yeah, I do.
But have you continued to do it afterwards, with multiple women? Let's say the first girl you ever did dirty, whatever that felt like, whatever that looked like.
I was younger too. I was so immature until...
So you haven't done girls dirty recently?
I'm not saying that, but...
That's my point.
I guess as I've gotten a little bit older, care a little bit more, I do try and paint the picture at the beginning, this is what it's going to be. I'm not saying I've done this with every girl. I might have been a little bit more...
deceptive.
Yes. But, I've gotten better with it, I would say. This is all it's going to be.
Do you feel like you've gotten karma for treating people poorly? Or are you scared that it's...
I mean, maybe in a relationship, they might have got their lick back on me, but I probably have some more karma out there waiting for me with someone and something. So
I feel like that. I feel like, I mean, we've talked about this, but for me, it's really hard for me to hurt people. I hate hurting people. I really do. I'm not perfect, so I have hurt people. I have, not been respectful or honest. I've been deceptive, and I feel like I got my karma tenfold for that.
yeah, we've talked about this.
Yes. So I feel like any debt you owe will be paid, and it's
Yeah.
already set in motion. And the only thing that you can really do is just be better from now on so that it doesn't continue to stretch out. And I also like this concept of, I can't remember where I heard it. I don't know if it was from, I think it was from my friend Cynthia, who is a medium. And she said that basically your karma is done when you decide that it's done, because it's kind of like a form of self-punishment too. You feel guilt, and when you think you're getting karma for something, it's because you haven't forgiven yourself for that thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But you can choose to stop punishing yourself and stop putting yourself in certain situations with certain people. And, I do kind of feel like my lesson has come to an end. I feel like I've paid my dues so much that now it's kind of wiped clean. and I just get to decide who I want to be
Yeah.
from now on. So when you get away with treating a girl badly, does it change your perspective on her, even though you're the one that's doing her dirty? Like if you do something that you know is disrespectful to her.
Sticks around, you mean?
Yeah, if she sticks around. Does it make you respect her less? Be honest.
Yeah.
It does?
I mean, maybe not respect her less, but, it's like, it makes you, you don't take him as serious, I guess you could say. I don't know. This is a tough one. That's a tough question to answer.
Does it depend on the person, or is it universal?
I mean, it can be outside of, like, relationships or even, like, the opposite sex. It could be anyone with anything. I think if you do something wrong to somebody and they stick around, like, I don't know, I'm digging my own grave here, I feel like.
No, I don't think you're digging your grave. I think that you should be honest and transparent because...
Yes.
Because I worried about that a lot. And in the last situation I was in, I struggled with, like, ego and pride and knowing better and feeling like you know better than this. Like, you know what the situation is. You know what's going on. So why?
Yeah.
Why are you still here? But it was genuinely coming from a place of love.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't because I didn't have respect for myself. I mean, maybe subconsciously, like, it was insecurities that kind of kept me in that situation, and that was a part of that lesson. But I struggled with that because I'm like, I'm still here. Like, why are you still here? And it always came back to, I just love this person.
Yeah.
And I wish that I didn't. And I struggle with the fact that I might have been perceived as, like, or not taken as seriously.
I want to follow that up with saying I've been on that side of it as well. And I feel like a big reason for me, being able to recognize that is because I have been on that end. I've gotten the, told that person, like, I'm done, I'm not sticking around, and I'm like, I'm back.
Circle back.
So.
And I feel like a part of that is also just, like, a natural human experience.
Yeah.
Like, exes circling back on each other, even though they have a whole history, whatever. So I think that there needs to be some grace in that way. But, I mean, it is crazy that your brain works like that, where it's like, even though I have been the one that circled back, I still take girls less seriously if they circle back. That sucks. Well, at least you know. At least you have self-awareness.
I guess.
So if a woman, so let's look at the other side of things. If there's a girl that holds you to a higher standard, right, and doesn't let you treat her a certain way or speaks up, because there's certain, like, there's a bunch of different type of women. I feel like, and it also depends on who you are as a man, but there's certain women that will just put up with whatever because of their childhood or because of how they've been conditioned or because they just like you so much. Like, they'll kind of let you get away with a lot and not really put up a lot of resistance. And then I feel like there are women that have higher standards for themselves and will try to, like, speak up and say, this bothers me or I'm not okay with this, try to set a boundary. When you run into someone like that who's more willing to be vocal about how you treat them, do you respect her more, or do you feel like, no, that's going to be too much work? I don't feel like dealing with that.
I think it's a little bit of both. There was somebody one time where we had talked about hanging out and it didn't end up happening. It was on my end that it didn't.
Yeah.
And she blocked me. Like, she just didn't say anything, just blocked me. And I'm still blocked.
Yeah.
I don't think about it anymore, but I remember in the moment being like, damn.
Yeah. Did you think about it afterwards for a while? Like, did that hurt your
No,
ego?
yeah, it was more ego than anything else. I didn't have feelings for her or anything, but I remember thinking, like, that's someone that, it's not, I don't want to say intimidating, but that's somebody that, like, I'm curious about how I would be with them in a relationship. Because I don't think I've been with somebody in a relationship that's been like that.
Like hard boundaries.
And I wonder how I would do with somebody like that.
It'd probably be good for you.
It probably would.
It probably
a little bit of accountability, holding me accountable.
Yeah, I think that
helped me grow up a little bit.
I don't know. Yeah, that's really interesting that you say that. What about, like, let's take it a step down from that. Someone that doesn't block you outright, but tries to have a conversation with you about it and explains, like, how it makes them feel, why it's not okay. Does it depend on how much you like them?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I don't know how to make this make sense, but like my responses will sometimes be in autopilot. Like I'll be like, I understand like how you feel, and I'm not mocking anybody like that I may have done this to. I'm just being real. Like, I say the things that I feel like need to be said
To kind of calm them down, or what?
Yeah. I have a hard time, like, and you're aware of this, when somebody's like telling me what I did wrong or how I'm in the wrong. I'll get better. I'll get better at that.
Okay, so you just tell them what they want to hear. Do you mean what you're saying, or?
I mean, yeah, like we just talked about it. I do feel bad about, doing wrong. But yeah.
But it makes you uncomfortable to talk about it.
Yeah.
It makes you uncomfortable to be held accountable.
I've gotten better.
Okay. Okay, so this is interesting to me because this is where I feel like you're dismissive avoidant.
Okay.
And I don't think you know what that is. Do you know what that is?
You've explained it to me before.
Okay. So I feel like a lot of people might be aware, but someone, I don't want to rip you a new one on the podcast, but.
That's all right.
I mean, everyone has their problems. Basically, someone who's a dismissive avoidant has an insecure attachment style. Insecure attachment styles are formed usually within the first 2 years of life when you're an infant, and it is completely out of your control because it has to do with your relationship with your caregivers. So not going to sit here and get into all the details, but basically someone with insecure attachment style is insecure in relationships. And so that manifests in different ways where you have someone that could be anxious, or you have someone that could be avoidant, and they usually attract each other. So someone who is anxious is very clingy. Both of these have to do with an abandonment wound where you're afraid that the person's going to leave you. You're afraid that the relationship is going to end. You're afraid that you're going to be hurt. You're afraid to get close to people, and you're afraid to open that wound back up and feel like ultimately there's something wrong with you and you're not lovable. And so the way that anxious people cope with it is they try to it can feel like smothering. So it can feel like blowing your phone up, sending you texts, sending you paragraphs. They need to talk it out. They need reassurance. They have bad trust issues. They're clingy is how I would describe it. Someone that's avoidant is a complete opposite. Someone who's a dismissive avoidant is extremely uncomfortable being intimate, being vulnerable, talking about feelings, talking about like anything where it's going to lay their soul on the table, because then they're opening themselves up to rejection or being made to feel like they're not lovable. And they will kind of shut down when conflict comes their way. They might, say what they need to say, do what they need to do to address it on a surface level, but anything that really goes deeper than that makes them uncomfortable because they're just not used to being like that. So
Well, it's pretty interesting because I feel like when it comes to just talking to a girl or, approaching them, there's no insecurity there. Like, it's just, I feel like I'm not overthinking or...
This is like the first, like when you're hitting on somebody.
Yeah.
Else. Okay.
But when it comes to being in a relationship, I think my insecurity had a lot to do with, fights, and because you're self-sabotaging yourself,
Right.
And you're making things up in your head, scenarios, and causes you to act a little out of character, a little crazy.
Do you feel like you're a secure person?
Overall, I'd say I'm a pretty secure person. I don't know if this contradicts what I'm about to say. I don't know if this contradicts that. But when I get into a relationship, I have a hard time, like, almost like I forget who I am in the relationship. I do get a little bit insecure.
So another thing with dismissive avoidance is they prioritize their independence and their freedom and their autonomy over everything. So if they start to feel like someone's controlling them or trying to possess them or taking away their freedom or asking a lot of them, they retreat. They're like, this is why I don't do relationships.
That's very true.
Yeah, it scares them away almost because it's that person trying to pull vulnerability out of you and you're shutting it down and being like, I'm not comfortable doing that.
I don't disagree with what you say I am.
No, I'm not trying to
I know you're not. I know
attack
you're not.
you, but
yeah, maybe
that's usually a sign of being an insecure person though.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, me answering, no one wants to say they're insecure.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I can tell myself as much as I want I'm a secure person. But, people say, like, when you get into a relationship, you have to be happy and secure with yourself in order to make someone else happy and to make that relationship work. And maybe that's why my relationships have failed. Maybe I'm not a secure person. I'm working on that. I'm working on...
Everybody's working on it.
First step is admitting it. I'm not quite there yet.
Do you feel like you have pursued multiple women before because of insecurity or pride or ego?
Yeah.
And that makes you feel more secure, knowing that women want you?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess let me ask you a question.
Okay, go ahead.
And you're a woman. I've seen your DMs, seen your likes. I know you do all right over there.
Okay.
But
come on.
Let's talk about quality over quantity. So let's say you got, your type. And I lost my train of thought again.
What's your hypothetical? My type of what? Is it going to make me feel better? Like having multiple dudes or what?
Yeah. I think that's anybody, right? Anybody that gets good attention or has a lot of people.
I think it's different for women because men are so easy. It just doesn't. So, for example, when have certain DMs or whatever, people reaching out, men want to have sex with you. That is not an accomplishment. I don't feel flattered by someone wanting to be physical with me. Having a lot of people attracted to me, I guess naturally, it feels good. It's validating, but it's not I don't know. For me, I guess this would be the comparison is if there's a certain level man that's attracted to me, that's what feeds my ego. Not just anybody.
Well, that's
not
why I
just
said quality over quantity.
Yes. So if
everything you'd like in a person, it would make you.
Yeah, and I feel like it's different for men though because you guys are kind of socially conditioned to pursue women and to just chase women or to being desirable by women because women are more socially conditioned to be passive and submissive and let men come to them. So if you have multiple women that want you, it means that you're doing your part as a man well because you've pursued all these women and they all want you. That makes you feel good. For women, they just we've had this conversation where you said an average looking woman does better than a good looking guy.
Yeah.
Because men are simple and men are easy.
They are
yes,
easy.
When there's a certain caliber man that is messaging me, if it's a celebrity, I'm just being transparent, if it's a celebrity or a rapper or an athlete, someone that's accomplished, maybe high up in a company, status obviously changes my perception of someone. Obviously more than anything, their character is what's going to matter at the end of the day. But as far as that excitement and that dopamine of seeing someone in my messages, it's more of an ego boost when it's someone that I feel is my equal.
Yeah. Well, and this is a good example because we're taking average-looking person and good-looking guy.
Fuck you.
But no, yeah, I mean, we should talk about that.
About what?
Just about how easy it is for celebrities to be able to...
I mean, that's just a different caliber man,
reach out to women.
Yeah, it doesn't. So I was going to ask you, actually, do you feel like social media plays a role in your ability to be loyal to one woman, or be with one woman?
You're saying me having access to it?
Yeah, does it make it harder for you when you know you have options at your fingertips? Really, honestly.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So when you're scrolling through a catalog of women and your brain is wired as a man to chase and pursue, and so men bond to women through this chemical called vasopressin, which is released when they're chasing or pursuing or hunting something. And that makes you fall in love with women. Women, it's more like oxytocin, which is like the cuddling drug, like what's released in your body when you cuddle a girl, like, and when they cuddle you, like, that's kind of how women bond. Look at you getting uncomfortable. Men bond differently, and it has to do with like feeling like you chased her and earned her. So I feel like as a man, when you're scrolling through and you see someone that's desirable, you're like, let me see if I can. And it's like a gambling system where it's like your brain is going to get dopamine if it works. And it's like it feeds your brain. It's like an addiction to just, can I get this girl? Can I get this girl? How many can I get?
It's definitely an addiction, especially, if you got, other men around you that you get along with and they also do well in that department. And almost not necessarily like a game, like of like being competitive.
Kind of, though.
But,
I think that
you talk about it with your friends. And
when you like someone, do you check their social media? Like, do you check up on who they follow, what kind of pictures they're liking?
Well, that's interesting. To answer your question, yes, I do. But I wasn't, like, I didn't know you could keep track of, like, somebody's followers and whatnot, all that kind of stuff. I didn't know, like, you could do that. And I had someone in my life that was big on checking up on that. And I wish I wasn't exposed to it. Because if I do like somebody, if I am into somebody, I'm checking up on them like that. And I hate that. I hate doing that.
I hate
especially because you're going in there looking to find something to piss you off.
And you'll find it.
And you'll find it.
You will find it. And then it's like you have to debate whether or not you want to say something about it because you don't know how big of a deal it actually is. And
well, and then I don't want to bring it up to somebody because it's like I don't even want to open that door.
Yeah.
I don't want them to be like, all right, MFer, like, let's look at your shit.
So that's interesting to me. Do you not ask because you're afraid of admitting what you're doing, or you know that you've been on shit too, so you don't want to bring it up with them because if you ask them, that means you're going to have to answer and air out your skeletons?
Yeah, I don't want to ask because I don't want them to want to be asking me that stuff, which I think is fair. Like if I'm not going to ask you those questions, don't ask me those questions.
If you weren't on shit though, would you be more inclined to ask? Like if you know you didn't have anything to hide, or you knew that you were being good to that person and you felt like they weren't being good to you, would you ask?
I guess yes. But I meant more of, I guess I got a little bit off the topic that we were on. When I meant asking questions, I was thinking more along the lines of like body count, who you've been with in the past. But we were talking about social media. Yeah, I mean, you could ask me those questions about social media, like the girl I'm with. I don't really care.
Interesting.
But I feel like I was almost kind of trained to, like avoid liking pictures. And I'm not like that. I think that's fair to the person you're with. Don't go around liking other girls' photos and stuff.
Yeah. You mean if you're in a relationship?
If you're in a relationship, yes.
Okay. But only if you're in a relationship do you feel like you're obligated to not like pictures.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the whole point of social media, in my opinion. Like, someone posts something that you like it.
Yeah.
If you're single.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a story liker.
Everybody's a story liker. That is going to be the death of relationships because it's so private. It's so, like, just between me and you.
Yeah, I know.
Like, the amount... I can almost tell on social media immediately who has a girlfriend, a baby mama, someone that they have checking up on their shit because they will come and like only my stories, my story highlights. So, you know how you can like put old stories on your...
Yeah.
You can create like a highlight reel. They will go through and like stuff on there because I'll still get the notification.
I've done that. I don't have a girlfriend.
Yeah, but do you also like their public posts?
I do think it's kind of corny to do that though. I want to say that.
Corny how? What do you mean?
I don't know.
I feel like it's secretive. I feel like they do it intentionally because the people that have liked my stories, I know are in relationships.
Yeah. And
I struggle ethically with like how much should I, like what constitutes reaching out to somebody and letting them know. Like I that's a hard line to draw because like you don't want to get involved, but you also don't want to... I don't know. For me, I guess I would reach out if they tried to reach out to me, to whoever their partner is. But I do feel like it's so disrespectful. Like, the amount of people in relationships that like my story, it's ridiculous.
I've seen a lot of girls post on social media, like on their close friends, whatever it is, about men doing that to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 It's foul because it's
cheat code.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is. It's people being sneaky. Do you remember when they used to show like people's activity on Instagram?
Oh, yeah.
I remember
I'm
one
glad
time.
that's like for my sake, and I'm just glad that's not a thing
I know.
anymore.
I go back and forth about it, but
Nah.
it's probably ultimately better that it's
That's what I mean. Like
it's
anybody would be like
it's
refreshing it.
Right, it's nobody's business.
Looking for
Do you ever worry about like actually being able to settle down and like start a family? And
I worry about being so stuck in my ways and because I'm so like, I've talked to you about this. I feel very selfish when it comes to like my time and, making time for somebody, other people. I worry about 5 years going by like that and all the good ones are taken up. I worry about that.
I mean, that's a real thing.
I know.
And I don't know. I feel like your path is your path, and as long as you're a good person and you have pure intentions, like everything will end up working out. I feel like maybe like if that's how you end up being, I wouldn't stress it too much because maybe your person's on the same path right now, where it's a girl that feels that way, and then when she's 30, she's finally like, oh fuck, now I want to settle down, and maybe you meet at the right time and the stars align. So I wouldn't worry about that. But I would worry about making sure you're doing the good ones right, like doing right by them.
And I've been a little bit more, aware of that lately, I'd say.
Yeah, as you should be, because
I've seen it happen. I've seen the good girls
You've seen it happen to me.
Yeah.
You've seen it happen to me. So that's why I get on you anytime. I feel like, I don't know.
I'm sure that particular situation in person might look back one day and
I would hope so. I would hope that that's, even if it's not like a relationship or a reconnection, but at least like the most frustrating thing for me is feeling unheard and unseen and unvalidated, or feeling like someone that did wrong by me, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, whoever, a coworker, it doesn't matter the relationship, when they do me dirty or do wrong by me and then somehow tell themselves a story that they're not in the wrong, or find a way to not take accountability and justify the things that they did to me. That, I think, ultimately is the thing that hurts me the most, because it makes me question my sense of justice of the world. Like, I feel like the world can't be a good place if people don't take accountability for how they fuck up. People are gonna fuck up. We're human. We're not perfect. We're here to learn lessons and experience different people. Like, my slate's not clean either. I'm not judging anybody, but it's about being able to admit, oh, this was wrong and I shouldn't have done this to this person. Or even if I justified it in my head, the way that it made this person feel is what really matters. And I need to at least hear them out and apologize and be better. To me, it's hard when, kind of like how you're describing, like, oh, they just tell you what you want to hear, but then they keep doing the same thing. You're not taking accountability. Yeah. You don't actually feel sorry for what you did. You think what you're doing is perfectly fine. And that's hard for me. So I would like, at least in retrospect, for someone, any friendship that I've ended or relationship that I've ended, for someone to look back and be like, you know what? I see where they were coming from, and I shouldn't have done that. Like, and you may never get that closure, and you just accept that, and that's a part of the risk of being in a relationship with somebody. But that, to me, is the most important thing, more than anything, is just someone being able to see how they hurt me and feeling sorry for it. Like,
when you probably feel things more just because you're so in touch with your feelings and your emotions, and you read a lot. Which I feel like you're just, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but you're in touch with your feelings and you can recognize things like as they're happening. And not every guy or every girl, not every person is like that.
Yeah, that's hard
I'm
too.
not making that an excuse to avoid taking accountability, but
Yeah.
Someone might have done that for so long, like been avoidant and not, owned up to messing up to where they genuinely might think they're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
It could be like a sickness.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Like, I recognize that in people.
That's what a narcissist is?
Kinda, yeah.
We talked about this.
Anyone with the personality disorder is not aware or does not believe that they have a personality disorder. That's what makes it a disorder, is because they don't think they're doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
Or they continue to do the same thing over and over again. And the characteristic with narcissists is someone just using you to get what they want. And that sounds like super malicious when you say it out loud, but it's very subtle sometimes. It could be as simple as someone wanting sex, like, and using you in a way and saying what they need to say to get sex. And they're not even aware in their head, like, oh, I'm manipulating this person to get sex. They might say, oh, no, I mean what I'm saying, so it's all right, because I do understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And I do see how that's wrong. And I do see how that could hurt your feelings. However, I'm going to continue to do it over and over again because it's what I want, and I get validation from doing that thing, even if it hurts your feelings. And then I'll just apologize again the next time. And they justify it to themselves. Or it can look like...
You throwing shade there?
No, okay. I'm not throwing shade there. It could look like, keeping someone around that wants a relationship. Bless you.
Thank you.
Keeping someone around that wants a relationship. You're not going to be able to give it to them, but you keep them around anyways because they make you feel good. That is also a form of narcissism and manipulation. And someone might convince themselves like, oh no, this isn't bad because I do actually care for this person. I do actually want this person around, not realizing that it's because it makes them feel good and that they're hurting this other person or kind of stringing this other person along. Not everybody that does that is a narcissist, but my point being, narcissists are primarily and exclusively concerned about themselves and their image, how they look to other people, meeting their own needs. So... Do you want to get married and have kids?
Yeah.
Tangent. You do?
Yeah. I just gave myself baby fever.
Oh, because of Heather's baby?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're going first. It's not going to be me.
I think I'm meant to be an uncle first.
No. All right, Cash. It's on you.
Well.
Let me ask you a question on that note. At the end of the day, do you feel like right now you're capable of accepting love from somebody, or do you feel like you would run away from it? Like real healthy, good love that's not toxic and...
I think I could do it.
You do think you could do it?
I think I could do it. Well, what do you mean by accept? What do you mean? Like be with that person?
Well, I feel like that's hard to define, but accepting it takes different forms. It means accepting the good and the bad. It means not just cuddling and going on dates and being exclusive with that person. It means if they want to have a conversation about how you feel about them, or about, hey, you're doing this thing and it's making me feel insecure, or it's making me feel, a certain way. Can we talk about it? Can we work through it and come out better? It means all of it. Do you think
I think I could do it. I would be honest with them, and I'd let them know where I'm at, emotionally, or we brought up how I am avoidant, and how I am insecure, and I would try and let them know that going into the relationship, and I'd remind them to be patient, and try and be understanding of that.
So you have a big thing that works in your favor, because there's a lot of people that are like you, a lot of just people in general that are like you, but having self-awareness and acceptance of it is huge, because what you just said is really important, where it's hey, I'm like this, right? I am avoidant. Certain things make me uncomfortable. I'm working on it, but
I want to be better.
But I want to be better, and I'm aware of it. And communicating, hey, sometimes I need space. Conflict makes me uncomfortable, so sometimes that means that I need to walk away from it for a second and just collect my thoughts before I can jump into it. Because someone who's anxious or maybe even someone that's healthy is going to want to jump right into it. And you might have to say, like, I need a second because this is overwhelming me. It doesn't mean I don't care about you. It doesn't mean I don't care about what you're saying. It doesn't mean I don't want to be with you. My system feels overwhelmed and I just need a second. Like, that's huge. Like, being able to communicate that is huge. And you can't communicate it unless you know it and have accepted it.
Yeah.
So that's, like, the biggest thing. Like, literally, you'll be fine if you know that this is how I am and I'm going to work on it.
Yeah.
Like, everything's going to work out just fine.
Well, and I want to touch back on the exes thing because we've talked a little bit about my 2 exes. I've talked about the negatives more than I've talked about, any positives that have come out of it. Again, I want to reiterate on the fact that I don't regret being with them. I learned a lot. And because I learned a lot, I'm able to, in the future go into a relationship, whenever that is, whoever it's going to be with, and let them know, like, where I've not been the best in my past and what I need to work on. I wouldn't know any of those things if I hadn't been with those, 2 people. Mm-hmm. So I am thankful for that. And I think me being able to admit, my wrongs and, like, being insecure and that stuff is because I think you have a little bit to do with it too, but because of those
Yes.
2 relationships that I was in. So
Yeah. We've added value.
yeah.
Is there anything you want to add that I didn't already cover?
I don't think so.
All right. Covered everything. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks, Caden, for coming on and sharing your personal life.
Yeah,
if
thanks
you
for
guys,
having me. That was a tough one.
Especially as an avoidant person. If you guys want to continue the conversation with Caden or have any more questions, I'll have his contact information available on all my social media channels. And I will see you again in 2 weeks to talk more elephants.